What's up, Unbroken Nation? Hello, my friends. I'm Michael Unbroken, host of the Think Unbroken podcast and founder of ThinkUnbroken.com. And I'm honored to be your trauma coach and mentor because I believe that everyone is capable of getting unstuck, cultivating self-love, and becoming the hero of their own story. I believe that when implemented correctly, the practical tools and education you will receive from this show will help you lead an unbroken and extraordinary life. I believe that no matter what we come from, that we all have the ability to choose ourselves first, to create and manifest a powerful and grace-filled future and love the reflection in the mirror. I believe that every day is a day to grow, learn, heal, and change. That's why I started my company, ThinkUnbroken.com, which is an online training and healing and personal growth platform where you get everything that I know about how to get motivated, be accountable, get out of the vortex, and become the hero of your own story through community, connection, and commitment. For more information, visit ThinkUnbroken.com. Please listen closely as you may learn just one thing that will help you be unbroken. And please share this episode with at least 3 of your friends because we all need community and connection in our healing journey. And be sure to DM me and tag me on Instagram at Michael Unbroken so that I can say hi. I just want to thank you again for being a part of this, for listening and being a member of the Unbroken Nation. Now, let's get into today's show and make the world unbroken.
Understanding the past. The worst crime is being expected not to tell. Daryl Hammond. You cannot fix a car with the check engine light on if you don't first run a diagnostic test to get the error code. This concept is not that dissimilar to being able to pinpoint the baseline of your trauma to create a game plan. I think about trauma in the same way. If I suffered sexual abuse and I am a man, then it probably wouldn't do me any good to see a therapist who specializes in women's sports psychology. Like our physical health, our mental health cannot be addressed in a one-size-fits-all methodology. And there are countless avenues to pursue while healing. The primary reason that I saw so many different therapists and practitioners was that I needed to find the right fit and find the right mechanic for the correct error code. Finding the proper error code came with learning more about the foundation of my trauma. Someone once asked me if I was cognizant of the fact that I was being abused as a child. Initially, I wasn't. But as I headed into my preteens, I started to notice that most families didn't look like mine, at least not on the outside. In these other families, children weren't hit with wires, branches of trees, shoes, fists, feet, and belts. They weren't called stupid, useless, retarded, or good for nothing. They weren't left to scavenge for food or other necessities, and when they were hurt or sick, they were treated with compassion and care. I began to notice the difference between my house and the homes of the families I lived with during various stints of being homeless as a child. While there were indeed some families that were in full range to my home experiences, the vast majority of the families that I lived with were full of love, compassion, and care. The juxtaposition was mind-blowing. I couldn't understand why, when little Timmy questioned his father's authority, he didn't get picked up by his shirt collar and thrown to the ground as I did. In looking back at the foundation of my childhood, it was abundantly clear that my understanding of self in those formative years was primarily shaped by abuse. As I started my journey, I was forced to take an intimate and hard look at what happened to me as a child. Certain moments of my past often sat on my shoulder, hovering like a shadow, and more often than not, I would pretend that they weren't there. I knew on some level that I would need to attend to my past trauma in the coming years, because those events directly correlated with my behavior in my teens and my 20s. I had convinced myself that despite my health and my behavior, that nothing was wrong. Something was obviously off. I knew that I had suffered trauma, and though I preferred to pretend it didn't happen, All signs pointed to a breakdown in the system. There must have been some deep-seated reason that I smoked, drank, ate, fought, sabotaged, and harmed myself. I could feel that there must be something in my past that would explain why I was having 5 panic attacks a day, walking down the street with keys between my knuckles, and had the same recurring nightmare for 20 years. It was Freddy Krueger murdering my mother in a log cabin grocery store as I screamed. No one looked up from what they were doing. My system had dozens of error codes, but I hadn't run the diagnostics to figure out what they were. This is the equivalent of getting into a car that is on fire. Eventually, and sooner than you think, it will explode. One sleepless night, I came across a study that would forever change the way that I thought about my past. In the mid-1990s, Kaiser Permanente and the California Center for Disease Control, along with Dr. Vincent Felitti and Dr. Robert Anda, conducted a research study called the ACE study, or Adverse Childhood Experiences Study. During this study, they were able to link long-term physical and mental health issues to childhood trauma. What I discovered was that, in a sense, the ACE study was the error code list in the Childhood Trauma Owner's Manual. This was the first time that I had discovered real metrics, data, and examples of findings based on the impact of childhood trauma and toxic stress. The ACE study research changed the course of my life. My mother and stepfather yelled and cursed at me daily. They often beat me, slapped me, threw things at me, and as mentioned before, my mother cut my finger off. When I was molested, my mother refused to believe me and didn't offer any help or support. There were many occasions that I had to steal food from the cafeteria at school or the local corner market. The summer between my 8th grade and freshman year of high school, I lived alone in our house as my mother was out on a bender and no one could find her. I survived almost entirely off of gas station snacks that I stole. If I were sick or injured, they would refuse to take me to the doctor. When I was 11, I walked on a broken foot for 3 weeks and had to have surgery. I witnessed the chaos of their divorce, and at the height of it, they were more violent than ever, especially towards each other. The first time my mother tried to kill herself, I was the one that called for help. I watched as police kicked down my grandmother's front door and dragged my uncle away in handcuffs. These events were only a few that could be on a laundry list of my error codes. I don't know that I could ever fully tally the number of traumatic events that I experienced, but I was starting to see a picture take shape. There are 10 questions that are a part of the original ACE study. For each question that you answer yes to, you get 1 point. I'm going to read the question, and I want you to tally the score. Did a parent or adult swear at you, insult you, put you down, or humiliate you? Did a parent or other adult push, grab, slap, or throw something or injure you? Did an adult ever touch or fondle you, or attempt to have oral, anal, or vaginal intercourse with you?
Did you know that recent studies show that CBD has incredible benefits for helping with physical pain? I haven't suffered from chronic pain, I've mentioned it before, and with NW Recovery's lavender eucalyptus salve, I have that pain dissipate like nothing else I've ever tried. I love NW Recovery not only because their products are non-psychoactive, which is really important to me, but also because they are created by Navy SEALs. So thank you so much for your service. If you're interested and you want to learn more about NW Recovery's CBD balm of lavender eucalyptus, then check out nw-recovery.com and use the keyword Unbroken to save 20% on your first order. Again, that's nw-recovery.com and use the keyword Unbroken to save 20% on your order.
Did you often or very often feel that no one in your family loved you or thought that you were important or special? Did you ever feel that you didn't have enough to eat, had to wear dirty clothes, and had no one to protect you, were too drunk or high to take care of you or take you to the doctor if you needed it? Were your parents divorced or separated? Were one of your parents hit, bit, slapped, pushed, or punched by the other? Did you live with anyone who was a drug addict or alcoholic? Was a household member depressed, mentally ill, or suicidal? Was a household member arrested or go to prison? On average, if you answered yes to one of these questions, there is an 86% chance that you answered yes to 2 or more. If you answered yes to 4 or more of these questions, you are at increased risk for physical health issues, including random and frequent sickness, bedwetting, diabetes, heart disease, stroke, asthma, allergies, IBS, Crohn's, early onset Alzheimer's, obesity, and multiple types of cancer. You are also more susceptible to mental health diagnoses, including bipolar, depression, anxiety, and suicidal thoughts. There is an increased chance that you will smoke, become an alcoholic, and have unsafe sex. In some case scenarios, these rates increase up to 2,200% versus someone who did not experience traumatic events. There's also up to a 5,200% increased chance of suicide associated with the number of questions you answered yes to. My score is 10. In essence, trauma is the psychological, emotional, and physical response and manifestation of adverse experiences that have occurred in the course of a person's life. These experiences can come from abuse as a child, the death of a close friend or family member, an accident, events like rape, physical and mental abuse, illness, divorce, or a multitude of other types of distress. Trauma can manifest itself in the body through unexplained illness, fatigue, sores, gastric issues, headaches and migraines, muscle spasms, and sleep issues. The way trauma manifests itself in the human psyche is through PTSD and C, or complex PTSD, anxiety, depression, mood swings, triggering, anger, flashbacks, guilt, shame, isolation, eating disorders, and suicidal ideation. Trauma has no boundaries and affects people around the world regardless of race, gender, socioeconomic standing, or sexual preference. It is estimated that 70% of the world's population has suffered at least one traumatic experience. In the United States of America, it is estimated that approximately 1 in 5 adults, 43.8 million people, experience mental illness in a given year. Some trauma survivors are 15 times more likely to commit suicide, 4 times more likely to become an alcoholic, 4 times more likely to develop a sexually transmitted disease, 4 times more likely to inject drugs, 3 times more likely to use antidepressant medication, 3 times more likely to be absent from work, 3 times more likely to experience depression, 3 times more likely to have serious job problems, 2.5 times more likely to smoke, 2 times more likely to develop a chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, and 2 times more likely to have serious financial problems. When I learned this information, I had the same response that you are likely having right now. Holy shit. I read the research and took a head-first dive into countless studies, blogs, videos, and workshops. I immediately had a better understanding of my failing health, addictive behaviors, self-harm, and more. I was always the one who couldn't play because of asthma, or was at home in bed because of another unexplained flu. As an adult, I had the liver enzymes of a 60-year-old. I was morbidly obese, manically depressed, suicidal, in and out of doctor's offices for colds, flu, strep, and sinus infections, and always in a heightened sense of fear. It was in finding this study that I was able to start to piece some of my trauma puzzle together. By nature, I am hyper analytical, and I need to know the reason behind everything. It is through understanding why trauma equals illness, behavioral problems, CPTSD, and negative self-perception that I have been able to make sense of my environment, the impact that it has had on me, and vice versa. Learning about the ACE study and deep diving into the research for years was Einstein-like, because I had a light bulb moment and then another and another. Every behavior, action, sabotage, and frustration made complete sense now. The evidence wasn't an excuse for anything that I had done, but it sure as hell helped me understand the why. Though I so desperately tried not to be, I was a product of my environment, and I was utterly terrified of the fact that I had only just learned about this research. This study is something that every trauma survivor should have access to.
Unbroken Nation, hope that you just got a tremendous amount of value from today's episode. I want to know what you think. Please do me a favor and review, rate, and share the episode with 3 friends on social media today. It would mean the world if you did, because ultimately at the end of the day, creating community and connection is how we heal generational trauma in the world. And I need your help to do that, Unbroken Nation. So if you're on iTunes or Spotify or wherever you are, please like, comment, share, review. I want to know not only what you like about the show, but how I can make the show better, how I can make this further about helping you on your healing journey. So do me a favor, and when you do, shoot me a screenshot of you making the review to my DM at Michael Unbroken on Instagram so that I can have a conversation with you, say hi, and more importantly, so I can share it with the Unbroken Nation. Thank you so much, my friend.